Hey guys, welcome back. Right, so let's move on. What we will do in this lesson that we are going to crank it up a notch and write a somewhat complex query. Basically, it's going to be a query where we are going to run two subqueries. Whatever comes back from it, we are going to join the results, and that way we're going to get, what we require. So let's have a scenario that the manager just came over and he just asked us that, could you please query the database for us so that we can have store, and we need to know about the store, that which city and country it is in, and also we need to know that, how much sales has that store made, right? Cool. Let's have a look at the ERD here. So if we look at here, what key would be, so it looks like customer is related to the store, and then the store is related to these blocks here, right? So I'm thinking, okay, so let's do this. Since we've talked about the relationships, right? I'm going to do left join from the store to the address. So give me everything from the store and any matching results from the address. Then we will do the inner join. So we just need to bring back the matching information, and the same with the store and the country. Once we have this information, we will have access to the store ID. Now, saying that, a customer also have a store ID, right? So what we will do is we will we'll select the store ID from the customer. Along the way, we will join these two tables, right? And once we have a store ID now from this relationship, we will just simply make a join on the store ID that we got from this subquery with this query, and that should give us the result, right? So in fact, let's just write that sort of a pseudocode. So it looks like what we need to do is that we need to connect the store, doing a left join with the address, right? Then we will connect the address with the city using the inner join. And by the way, you can skip the inner, as if you just specify join, then it just understands that you mean inner, right? Okay, so, and then what we will do is we will just connect the city using the inner join again with the country, and we will get our store ID from here. Great. This subquery, we're just going to call it probably store details, right? Okay, that makes sense. Now, the second subquery is going to be between the customer and the payment. Yeah, so that's going to be an easier one. So we will just do the inner join between the customer, because we do need the matching information from both tables, right? So we will do the inner join between the customer and the payment, and again we will have access to the store ID because it is there in the customer's table. Great, and we'll call this payment details. Yeah, okay, great. Let's start writing this query here first, so that we can have some results, and then we can compare it when we will write the query in a query builder. So let's call the first. So we've already specified here what we need. Okay, so we will get the store details first. Anything which comes back from the store details, and the same would be with the payment details. So anything which comes back from there. Star means everything. Okay, and we will basically run a subquery first here, and whatever results which come back from that, we will specify it as store details. Yeah. Then we are going to run an inner join, and we will run the inner join on a subquery. Whatever which comes back from that subquery, we will call it as payment details. And now that this store ID has come back from both the subqueries, so we now have a common denominator where we can link these the data which come back, right? So we will say that as long as the store ID is equal to payment details dot store ID, yeah, and then we will just order it by store details ID, yeah, okay. Great. So now this is our skeleton, right? And now we need to sort of go ahead and write this query first. Okay. So we will say select the store dot. So the I'm gonna call the store as for the store itself, and I will say give me the store ID from there, and give me the city dot city ID, or is it no, not the city ID, sorry. We need the city name from there, right? And then we will say give me the count dot country, so that will give me the country name, right? It's going to be from store, so I'm gonna call it store as I have done it there. Okay, so we will do the left join, and we will do the left join on the address, right? And let's call it addr, yeah, as long as the store address ID is equal to addr dot address ID. Okay, so we've now done this bit, right? So we've done the left join on the address. Now let's do the inner join. So we are going to say inner join, or as I said, you can just say join. It's the same syntax really. So we will join now city. We will join it on dot city ID. Oops, sorry for the spelling there. Okay, so address dot city ID is equal to, we need the city dot city ID. Great. So this bit now is done. So now let's just link it with the store, and we have called it count, and what we are going to do is it's going to be joined on the city dot country ID, and it will be equal to the count dot country ID. And once we have that, that means now we've got the store details, which is great, right? Okay, now let's do the inner join between the customer and the payment. Okay, so let's go ahead and write the query. So that will be something which is basically going to be useful for us here, you know, when we do the join, right? Okay, so and then we need to, so if you look at the payment table, right, if I can find it here. Okay, yeah, I've already selected. So payment has this amount, and what we need to do, and if you look at it, you know, for the customer, so each customer has made these payments, and it looks like it's repeating, so we just need to sum it all up, right? Sorry, not this here. So we just need to sum up all the amount. Right, okay. So for that we will write the sum, and we will say pay dot payment. Okay, and we will call this as sales, so I'll just name it as sales, right? You don't need to even write the word as, but it's helping yourself really, you know. So we will select this information from the customer. That's going to be our starting table, and we've called it cus. And then join the payment table, and we've called it as pay. And where the customer ID is equal to the pay customer ID. And we will group them by customer store ID. Okay. So if we run now this query, and hopefully it should give us some results. Oops, pay.payment is not found. Okay. So let's see. It's not payment, it's amount. Okay. So if we run now again, there we go. We'll just specify there, right? We don't need everything, we just need the sales, this bit here. So that's what we are looking for. Great. Okay, so now I'm just going to copy the query and bring it here. Okay. Yeah. Great stuff. So, you know what? Let's do this. So, just to make it simple, first we will write this query. Then we will write this query, and then we will see how we can join these two queries together, right? And by all means, another way that we will write it is just basically write it all together in one go. And whichever syntax you want to adhere to, that's completely up to you, right? So we will write the query store details first. Let's see. And so db query, right? Now select the fields for me, which will be the store ID, city, and again we will stick to whatever we have written in the row SQL. So let's say from store, as we've called it store here. Okay, then we need to do the left join. So let's do the left join, and we are left joining the address as the editor. Okay, need to specify the store dot address ID, and equal to the address dot address ID. Okay, great. So we've done the left join now. Now we need to do the inner join. So we can just do the join, and we will join that with the city, where the address dot city ID is equal to the city ID dot city ID itself. Okay, and then we will join that information to the country, right? So we'll join the country table, where the city dot country ID is equal to the country dot country ID. Okay. Wow. Okay, great. So looks like, so if I run the get on it, it should give me some results back. If I were to dump the store details, let's see if we've made any mistakes, and we have. So the column not found, count.country. Okay, so it looks like we've called it the count, but we forgot to call it here. Okay. So it's saying that the country.country ID, now that we've called it count, so we should be That's why Laravel is so helpful. I mean, it's even giving me the pointers, right? Otherwise, I would have been debugging these issues and yeah, all that stuff. Great. So we've got two stores. That's what we want, and we've got the store ID for it in both of them. That will be the key which is going to be useful in connecting this information, right? Okay, so now that we have this, and we're not going to get the results back, we just need the SQL from this. Let's go ahead and write the payment details. Okay, so the payment details is a bit straightforward, right? So db, and let's initialize a query, and we will say select. So what do we need? We need a customer dot, let's pass an array. So customer dot store ID, and again I will just stick to whatever I had written in the raw SQL. And now, so obviously we need to get the sum, right, as sales. So what we could do, and conveniently we have access to the raw. Yeah, you gotta love Query Builder and Laravel. It just makes it a breeze to work with these complicated queries, Okay, so we will say that give me the sum from the pay.amount column as sales, right? Cool. And we will specify where is that information coming from. So from the customers table first, from the customer as cust. That's what we've called it cust, right? Okay. And then we will just do the join. So what we will say that join the customer table with the payment table, but we've called it as, yeah, we've called it pay. So we will say that, alias it with pay, and as long as the cust dot customer ID is equal to pay dot customer ID. Okay, and then we have a group by. So we will group by, sorry, that's not capital, just there. And we will group it by the customer dot store ID. Let's see if we've got that correct. So if I run payment details, and in fact we'll call the get on it so that it gives you it just retrieves the information. Great. So now we've got the sales for the store ID again. That means now all we need to do is link these two information together, right? And hopefully it shouldn't be that difficult now. Results, right? Okay, so we're gonna say db and initialize a query for me, right? Select the store details, everything, and also get me the so you've got the store detail, the payment details, and get me only the sales from this column here, right? We just need the sales column from there. And here now we can just say from sub. So that will basically now help us to pass a subquery in there. So it's basically just as you would expect, right? From the sub, yeah. We need the store details first, right? And once we have the store details, we will just call it that as. So it just requires an alias, right? And we've called it store details. Great. Okay. So once we have that information from there, then we are going to join, but this join is not, a straightforward join, but we are basically asking for it that we are going to join that information from whatever comes back. We are going to join that information with whatever comes back from the subquery, right? That's what we are really trying to do. So let's pass in that subquery here. Great. Okay. And join sub works exactly the same way as this, right? But rather than specifying name of the table, we've passed in a query now here. Join sub basically works almost the same as this, with one sort of modification. Because if you think about it, we are bringing the result back, but then we need to sort of like, give it some sort of an alias that we can then compare the results, right? So this is what we're going to do. So this join sub basically allow you to pass in second parameter as the alias, whatever you want to name it. So we've called it payment details, right? And now we are ready to specify the columns. So what we are going to say is, as long as the store details .id, I think it's the store ID, yep. As long as that is equal to the payment details, and in fact I'll just make it a bit bigger so you guys can see, yeah, that store ID. And usually you would write some, so you can create, the whole point of having aliases is just to shorten these words, so you could have written like PD and SD, but I just wrote the whole thing just to make it easier for us to understand. Okay, so now we should be able to get the results back, and with any luck we should be able to see the results, right? So let's see. If I come to the browser, oh, okay, so there is no, so what's happening? Invalid argument, what? That's the one. So we are basically outputting the results. All we need is whatever query which comes back from here, right? That's what we need. And I think I had already mentioned, but you can just pass in, you don't need to pass in an array, you can pass it the values like that as well, and there we go. So that's the same result as we have here, right? Canada and Australia, great. So by the way, if you wanted to get the SQL from it, you can actually call, I think it's called to SQL, and that will give you the query itself. Yeah, so that's the query there, right? And if you copy this, so I use one of these just to see and format the SQL. There we go, right? If I were to bring this back, and let's comment this out and see, yeah, let's see if we get the same results. There we go. So this is really cool. I mean, we had these subqueries, right? And the SQL which is getting produced is exactly the same as you would write the raw SQL. And this is very powerful because, sometimes you are in situations like we've just talked about, where it doesn't really make sense to just eager load everything like you would normally do in the Eloquent model, and sometimes you have to resort to database, the query builder, and it really helps. Imagine you have massive amounts of records, and you need to loop through and you need to get the information. that's one of the best use cases where you can just resort back to the query builder itself, right? So I hope that you guys you know, found it interesting. Certainly was interesting for me. So what I was saying, another way of writing this would be to basically pass it as a function, right? And you can then the function will automatically have a query, right? And then you can pass this information. So if I get this query from there and I can pass it on. Yep, so query select that information. So if I were to run now, it's exactly the same. I'll do the get on it, so let's see. Yep, okay. And that means you can also pass this, right? So if I come here and I say function, and I'll have access to the query there as well. And let's chain it off the query. And with any luck, we should have the same result, and we do. That's great. So whenever you are a bit stuck and you don't know if you have these methods available to you, I would highly recommend that you can, you know, go to the builder class, the one that Laravel comes with, right? And then you can have a look. So if I look into my, so we've used now from sub and join sub, right? And if I look, so from sub would be, let's have a look. So from sub, there we go. So there you go. So you pass in the query, right, which we did, and you can just alias that. Great. And then if you look at the join sub, and these parameter names are so intuitive, like it just makes sense, right? So you pass in a query, then you give it an alias, and then it's just the same as the join. You know, you just pass it operator, the first key and the second key from the table, and you have a lot of different methods. You know, a lot of different methods. So with the join, you have a left join where you pass in the table, and you just deal with it as you would do with the where itself. Whenever in doubt, always come back here and have a quick look. Documentation is also great, but all of, you know, most of these things, they're not covered in documentations. It's always good to have a look under the hood, the different methods that that is at your disposal. So great. I hope that you guys you know, had a bit of a fun. It was certainly a bit of a fun for me, but till next time, take care.